Love. It can inspire some of the most beautiful creations known to man. Case in point, the subject of today's video, Für Elise, by Ludwig van Beethoven. Welcome back. Today, we're going to look at a music art that never really got her time to shine, which is a shame because, well, look at her. A design this cute needs to be shown off. And since today is Valentine's Day, at least it is at the time of posting, I figured it would be criminal of me not to give Elise the spotlight. So without further ado, let's dive in, starting with the score's history. Initially titled Bagatelle No. 25 in A minor, upon finding a dedication for Therese on the score, it was assumed that Beethoven had composed it for Therese Malfatti, a piano student of his. In fact, he started composing it the same year he proposed to her. However, Therese was already engaged and rejected his offer, and out of either spite or heartbreak, he ended up making the second half of the score far more complex. It was later found among Therese's possessions, which is how it ended up in the public eye. However, there have been a few other women considered as the inspiration for this song. First, there's Elisabeth Rachel, a German soprano who performed in one of his operas, and who Beethoven worked closely with. Other theories include a young piano prodigy named Elise, for whom the score was a gift, and also Therese Malfatti's mother. But I think in this case, the simplest solution is the correct one, and the name Für Elise was a mistranslation that became fact. If you ever played a game of telephone, you know just how easy it is for a message to be altered through word of mouth. But whatever the reason, the result was the same, and Für Elise is as popular as any classical score. And as for how Elise is in-game, well, I already hinted at it, but Elise doesn't appear in the main story. However, she does feature in an event and has tea time and invitation content. Still, it's a shame because, again, Elise's design is really cute and creative. To analyze her design a bit deeper, there are heart motifs sprinkled all around her design, including the marking over her right eye, on her belt and shoes, but in also more subtle ways, like the shape of her skirt and her hair. I'm a sucker for drill curls as is, even if drawing them is the bane of my existence, but the extra heart details really make her design pop. The hearts also extend into her weapon. Elise is a blader class and fights with a golden ribbon spear, which pairs very well with her outfit. But when it comes to how she fights, well, to preface that, Elise is described as a very frail music art, only able to do 1 or 2 battles before needing to rest. And there's a reason for that. Because Elise deals the most damage when she's at low health. And her skill set involves a way to drain her own health until she gets strong enough to deal decent damage. The Takt Op wiki suggests that this might be in relation to Für Elise becoming more difficult to play. I think it might be a reference to how Beethoven was able to create something so powerful through significant heartbreak. But I can't help but think about how dark of an ability that is. It's almost giving Pavane vibes, only if it was actually incorporated into her skills. And every battle that Elise deals with negatively impacts her health, to the point where she can't really lead a normal life. But at this point, I'm starting to discuss tea time content, so let's just get into that now. In every tea time conversation, hell, in every conversation period, Elise carries herself with the grace and dignity of a lady. Elise's voice actress, Manaka Iwami, really sells this frail but polite noble lady vibe.
顔が赤くなっておりませんか？というのははしたないのですが私ドキドキしていましてあなたとお話ができると思うと気がせいて 昨晩から頬が赤らんでいたのです。
She doesn't get overly emotional, almost as if she's too tired to emote properly, but when she's passionate about something, it shows, more through her words than her tone. Also, I don't think I mentioned this before, but tea time conversations can be held during the day and night, with the initial dialogue changing based on the time. For example, in the evening, Elise will begin by yawning, covering her mouth as she does so, before apologizing. And in the very first conversation, Elise is quiet, something we can choose to comment on. This causes her to apologize and explain that she knows why Takt called her, to deepen their connection, which will increase her strength. She then invites Takt to speak to her at any time in the future, before formally introducing herself. These introductions are a way for music arts to formally introduce their score and the history behind it, while also displaying their own thoughts and personality. Elise, in her profile, describes Fideles as a strong and quiet song, and expresses a desire to become more like it. Concerning its name, however, she actually finds it embarrassing to call herself Elise. To her, she's not actually the woman the song was written for, so it's awkward to address herself as though she is. Still, her hope is that she can help her song be remembered by the world. And we do get a few inaccuracies, as Elise describes the song being written by Beethoven for his lover, and doesn't mention Therese. At least not in the game, but inaccuracies are bound to happen here and there. As for the conversation topics, I was able to find several, and they really provide a good view on Elise's mind. The first conversation topic is about D2s. Elise has a lot to say, and oh boy is it scathing. Elise acknowledges them as the enemy, says that humanity knows little about them, and mentions that they lack grace? That's odd, but let's see where this is going. So, Elise proceeds to call D2s uncivilized, and explains that their behavior is undignified and dishonorable. She states that their propensity for attacking innocent people is what she hates the most about them. To Elise, the more power one holds, the steadier their demeanor must be. If they're reckless, they'll become undignified as well. And warriors especially need to be diligent and self-disciplined. This is true of music arts, but D2s lack such ethics, and are therefore a disgrace, not only to music arts, but to humanity as well. God damn, Elise! If I were a D2 and heard the whole speech, I'd rethink my life choices and die from shame. Even Elise is surprised by her own outburst, and she again apologizes to Takt. Asking if she's unhappy in response to this has Elise reassure us that she's pleased. She apologizes and worries that she comes off as cold. Before leaving, she asserts once more that she enjoyed talking with Takt, and plans to exercise in order to talk for longer. And for the second encounter, Elise states that she slept well and is now ready to talk. And then she realizes that her heart is racing. While blushing, she admits that she's been impatient to talk since last night, and the thought of speaking to Takt has got her flustered. But she still plans on talking with him, even with this trivial matter, as she calls it. And she asks him not to laugh at her, since he doesn't know her daily life. The second conversation topic is about conductors, and in contrast to Pavane's answer, Elise says that she respects Takt. The responses we give vary, from confusion, disbelief, to asking if she wants our autograph. Sadly, the confused answer got picked, so I can only speculate what the answer to the last question would have been. Still, Elise encourages Takt not to sell himself short. After all, it takes a great amount of courage to enter the battlefield with only a baton by your side. And she assures him that she'll do her best with his help. Encounter number 3 begins with Elise stating that she's eaten more to build her strength, and admits that she can say things to Takt that she normally wouldn't say to others, including her problems. but she finds it awkward to depend on him emotionally and apologizes, asking if he can, quote, accept someone as inelegant as her. She even worries that he finds her manipulative or cunning, but is relieved when he accepts her, flaws and all, before asking him to find the key to her heart. Whoa, 2 encounters and she's already smitten. Question 3 concerns Symphonica, and Elise's opinion is that it's comfortable. There are only personnel to attend to them, and since she doesn't like the outside world and has a weak body, she prefers a quiet place to live. And when she's summed up as a lady living in the seclusion of her boudoir, she asserts that she's nothing special, summing herself up as an introverted and fragile girl. Yet, she hopes that she can become stronger, and since she's sheltered by Symphonica, she hopes to return the favor by battling. But Elise laments that she's unable to be as brave as the others, and this upsets her a great deal. From there, the conversation draws to a close, and Elise says that while she's tired, she feels that the conversation was insightful, and even if it feels like she just had a workout, her heart feels content. Before the 4th encounter, the video I watched included the contract signing for Elise, so I'll mention it now. And when the contract encounter begins, Elise says that she's been trying to restrain herself and behave gracefully, but instead she opened herself up and asks if he found her inelegant, something we can either deny or encourage in her. And if we deny it, she thanks us for the reassurance and says that we're kind. She announces that she wants to say something embarrassing, something she wouldn't have said before, and then asks to form a contract. We can either respond that we've been waiting for those words, or that Elise has said them far too late. And it might just be me, but the latter sounds rude as hell, and were I in charge of this game, I'd make it so that choosing the mean option reduces her affection for you, and you need to work twice as hard to get it back. Regardless, the positive answer has her do an adorable pose while thanking us for our generosity. She admits that she was hesitant before because so many other music arts like him, but Takt himself gave her the push she needed to be brave. Then the contract is forged, and while doing so, Elise asks who will listen to her song and understand her love, before saying that she'll do anything for us from now on, and says that her song is for us. After forging the contract, future tea time conversations will sometimes reference it. And for Elise, she says she's so excited to talk that she needs to take a deep breath, and does so before continuing the conversation. We have 2 questions left, concerning Elise's thoughts on battle and on people she struggles to deal with. But first, when talking about battle, Elise admits that she doesn't like it, but feels that she shouldn't think that way as a music art. She even compares a music art who doesn't fight to a blunt blade. Dang, wonder what Scheherazade would think of that. Oh well. For some reason, we can choose to say that we should run away together. Elise is surprised, of course, and blushes while saying she imagines something weird. Then she asks Takt if he said that to make her feel safe. Elise then explains that whenever she sees her fellow music arts battling, she's filled with admiration and wants to grow strong so she can protect everyone. And now, coming to those who are hard to deal with, we don't get tea. Elise considers it inaccurate to say that there are people she can't deal with, before admitting to being cautious around pomp and circumstances? Wait, really? This little cinnamon bun? Okay, I'm still curious. Where's this going? So we can guess that it's due to their similarities, and Elise agrees, stating that both of them are trying to be graceful. She feels that Pomp is a hard worker and finds it an honor to share similarities with her. Yet, Elise worries about Pomp overworking herself and that Pomp doesn't trust her enough to ask for help. To Elise, Quote, "Seeing her working so hard as a delicate small girl, I cannot help but want to give her a hand." So, Elise is just concerned. Oh, that's really sweet. Honestly, I'm glad it turned out this way. It would be weird if she ended up talking shit about a 12-year-old. But with that, Elise's tea time has come to a close. Elise's invitation event seems to focus more on how she interacts with others. It starts with Elise in the cafeteria, sighing to herself when Takt approaches her, instantly sensing that something is wrong. And after a bit of hesitation, Elise asks him how to make a darkened star shine again. Wait, what? Understandably, Takt is also at a loss as to what that means or even how to answer. And when he admits it, Elise says she feels the same. She says that she was asked to help by Fledermaus. Well, I can see where this is going. Basically, Fledermaus is a troll. She loves to fuck with people, but her pranks never really become mean-spirited. So in a flashback, we see Fledermaus rush up to Elise, ask for help, and clarifies that Twinklestar was the one who wanted to know the answer to that question. Upon hearing this, Takt wants to ask Twinklestar directly, and when Elise questions the necessity of going and asking Twinklestar again, as she assumes that Fledermaus was sent by her, Takt points out that asking again could reveal the true problem. He then tells her that Fledermaus is a troll, which surprises her. But Takt does manage to convince Elise to consult with Twinklestar, so off they go. And based on how Twinklestar is behaving, it's clear she needed help. She's got a bunch of music sheets scattered on the ground and is pacing, very much unlike her. And when Takt and Elise approach her and ask for clarification on making a darkened star shine again, she's so confused that her hair puffs up. But Twinklestar explains that she wanted to learn piano and experiment with variations of her score. But she's gotten so far off in her experimentation that she's lost track of the original melody. I wonder what would happen to a music art whose score gets altered too much. Anyway, they deduce this as the meaning of making a darkened star shine again. And after a short note-matching minigame, the score is fixed, and Twinklestar even says she feels better, which implies that altering her score negatively impacted her. I really wish that could have been further explored, but oh well. Takt wonders what Fledermaus was thinking. She could have just explained things clearly, but instead she spoke in riddles and worried Elise. Twinklestar assumes that Fledermaus considered Elise as the best person to help her, and gave her a nudge in the right direction. Elise responds that she's happy to even be asked to help. However, Takt worries that Fledermaus is pushing her own problems onto others, but he figures that the problem has been solved, until he sees Elise's expression. And when he questions her, after a little hesitation, Elise admits that someone has challenged her to a duel. Wait, a duel? I've seen this before. One magical girl wanting to supposedly duel another, but it's actually a huge misunderstanding. So that's probably what's going on here, right? After all, no one in their right mind would look at our delicate Christmas tree and challenge her to a duel. Which is why it's probably not going to surprise you that Fledermaus was the one to tell Elise about that. She ran up while Elise was reading and told her that Pomp and Circumstances wants to duel her. Given what I know about Pomp, that's unlikely. And when Elise asks Fledermaus for clarification, she responds that she doesn't know why, but says that Pomp is waiting before awkwardly wishing her luck and running off. And Elise questions if she should, quote, recognize Pomp's determination and earnestly accept her duel. But Takt stops her and says that Fledermaus is fucking with her again, even bringing up that she probably considers Elise an easy target due to her naivete. Still, they go off in search of Pomp. When they do find her, she's busy in the training room, doing push-ups in her fancy dress, as you do. And when Elise asks about the duel, Pomp is confused and says that she wanted to do a mock battle with her to practice their skills, and that Fledermaus offered to deliver her message. To Takt, this proves that Fledermaus is messing with her. But to Elise, this means that Pomp did want to battle her, even if it's a friendly spar instead of an all-out hair-pulling brawl, and that regardless of how she delivered the message, Fledermaus was being truthful. And she's even gotten a rare chance to do a battle simulation out of it. And with that, Pomp asks to see Elise's true power and wants her to give her everything she's got. Given how she unlocks her true power, ouch. After the battle, both girls are pleased with the outcome. Elise attributes her victory to Takt's help, and Pomp thanks her for the fight. Pomp also asks to spar in the future, and both girls leave. Still, this has weakened Elise considerably, something she laments. Takt then asks Elise if all her problems have been solved, and she agrees. But then Takt remembers Fledermaus, and oh my god, does he have a bone to pick with her. He outright says that he can't forgive her, and that they'll be having words. Elise, however, doesn't see it that way. She even wants to thank Fledermaus. And when Takt tries to explain himself to her, he decides that it's better to find Fledermaus instead. However, she beats them to it and gives him a call. And Takt wastes no time. He starts by telling her off for tricking Elise and making Twinklestar and Pomp's issues out to be way worse than they actually were. But Fledermaus brushes it off before telling him that D2s are going to appear. And Takt is confused by this, because he received no reports or warnings about it. And Fledermaus admits that this is her own speculation. He doubts her, of course, and while she acknowledges his doubt, she says that she wouldn't be able to handle them all alone, and asks for help. Side note, but Fledermaus actually has her own conductor she could ask for help, but I guess since Takt's there, she's picking him instead. Sorry, Avril, maybe next time. Elise interjects to ask where Fledermaus is, and expresses an interest in coming along, despite Takt's warnings that this might be fake, and his pointing out how weak she is from the mock battle. But Elise brushes it off, saying she's fine, and despite his hesitance, Takt accompanies her to the coordinates that Fledermaus sent. And it's on the surface, near a plant shop with what seems to be lots of cacti. Once they reach Fledermaus, she admits that there is no D2s. And Takt is convinced that she was making shit up and even asks her how she made that prediction to begin with. But Fledermaus launches into her research about how she was looking at past data of D2 movements, but Takt cuts her off and even begins to tell her off. Elise, on the other hand, is happy that D2s didn't appear, and Fledermaus is surprised at how kind she is. But Takt continues to tell her off, telling her not to bully Elise, that her actions have caused her a lot of trouble, and that there's a limit to how far a joke can go. But wouldn't you know it, D2s suddenly appear. Behind them, beside them, and in front of them. Fledermaus, clearly smug at being right, goes off to handle one batch, and Takt, preparing to battle, checks on Elise. Despite, well, everything, Elise asserts that she can fight, and even says that, unlike her battle with Pomp, she'll be able to handle D2s easily. Still, the battle wipes her out completely, and this upsets her. Fledermaus then returns, admitting that her speculation was off, but Elise proceeds to compliment her. Even if the amount of D2s wasn't as large as she assumed it was, she did get the prediction right. Elise goes on to say that Fledermaus saw what they couldn't and views the world from her own unique perspective. And Fledermaus is incredibly flustered by this, before saying that Elise is way too honest, and as a result, she's lost interest in teasing her. And Elise asks if she was being teased. Elise, honey, what do you mean? How are you this innocent? Furthermore, she goes on to say that she liked it, which confuses both Fledermaus and Takt. Elise explains that she sees herself as straightforward and inflexible, and considers Fledermaus's behavior a positive change, and even asks Fledermaus to keep teasing her. And based on what we know of Elise, I think it's safe to assume that Fledermaus's attention brought some excitement into her life. Since she spends a lot of time resting or alone, she probably appreciated the chance to interact with others. And Fledermaus seems to understand, and she even calls her amusing. Elise responds that she doesn't get it, but that she's happy regardless. And as her invitation draws to an end, Fledermaus agrees to keep teasing her. And overall, Elise's invitation story was pretty cute, mostly because of how there was really nothing mean-spirited about it. Fledermaus's actions weren't intended to be malicious. Maybe she was trying to bug her a bit, but nothing too bad. However, for Elise, someone who clearly struggles to fit in with her fellow music arts due to her physical limitations, the added social interaction was a benefit in her eyes. So I see why she asked to be teased in the end. While this shows how sheltered Elise is, I feel like she comes across as sincere and charming, genuinely seeing the best in others and wanting to give a helping hand. But with that, there's one last thing we need to cover. The one event that Elise got to participate in, the Christmas event. She doesn't have a large role and mostly spends it alongside Swan Lake, a curious, cute, and somewhat ditzy music art. Because of this, Elise's role is mostly explaining things to Swan Lake. First, they appear at a Christmas market, where Elise explains that events such as this are happening all over during the holidays. Later, when they notice Carmen dancing with Fantasy Impromptu, Elise explains how they're dancing out of joy, and that it's a good way to express one's happiness. When Swan Lake asks about other ways to express joy, Elise mentions how Free Shooter was singing, before asking if Swan Lake wants to dance as well, encouraging her to go and not worry about her. Swan Lake asks if that will make Elise happy, and Elise replies that it's more about what will make Swan Lake happy. And at the end of the event, Swan Lake is talking with Elise and asks her, when does one usually feel happiness? And she says that she suddenly feels incredibly joyful but doesn't understand why. Elise admits that it's hard to say, but suggests that it's the result of everybody's mood harmonizing. Swan Lake is satisfied with this answer and says that Elise is amazing. And with that, I've covered everything for Elise in Takt Op Symphony. Honestly, I didn't appreciate Für Elise as a song before looking into Elise herself. As with a lot of classical music, I heard it so much growing up, often in cartoons or in advertisements, that I never really stopped to appreciate it on its own. It's likely something I'll be saying a lot in this series, but after taking the time to listen to this song, for me, it felt reminiscent of a river in spring, ebbing and flowing and cascading as you listen to it. It's a beautiful song, and I fully understand how it was transformed into this character. I only hope this video did her as much justice as Dina did. Anyway, thanks for watching, and until next time, let's have Elise play us out.